And all this week, we're going to have some of the major political leaders in the state of Wisconsin. But today, it's the major political leader of the city of Milwaukee, Mayor Cavalier Johnson, Chevy Johnson, joining us. Oh, very nice.
Look at that.
You don't get that everywhere, I bet. Huh?
I don't. Well, Mayor,
first of all, how are you?
I'm well, Mayor. Thank you for having me, Carol. Nice to see you as well.
Nice to see you.
Happy to join you guys.
All right, so a couple things we're going to get right out of the gate. This whole Christmas tree fiasco. Mm-hmm. What happened there?
So, as folks know, the city of Milwaukee had been taking Christmas trees, collecting Christmas trees with garbage, and had been doing that for some 30 years or whatnot. The Department of Natural Resources has said that Christmas trees are categorized as yard waste, not as decoration. So
which is the correct categorization.
So, but the city, I mean, for decades, even before I took office, had been processing trees this way, and so there was this huge, mix up. And I mean, I'll take responsibility here. I mean, we should have gotten that information out sooner to folks. I was not pleased with the fact that the Department of Public Works did not get that information out sooner, but ultimately the buck stops with me. And so I take responsibility for that. We will put forward a plan, and so we will collect those trees and work to make sure we're in compliance with the DNR's rules.
All right, the other one had to do with a breaking story about 2,000 Milwaukee taxpayers sent the wrong property tax bills. I know from my experience this happens. Milwaukee's a pretty big city, so this does happen occasionally. What is the answer or the problem here?
Yeah, it ultimately results in a clerical issue. And I want to give a lot of credit to Spencer Coggs, the city treasurer, who's been a great help to us in helping to identify as well as fix the issue here. My understanding is that it's like less than 0.5% of taxpayers that are affected by this. It's people who have not paid their municipal services bill. It's people who have outstanding orders with the Department of Neighborhood Services as well. So the everyday taxpayer homeowner is not affected by this.
A quick follow up: the problem was identified by someone who paid their taxes, not somebody from the city, apparently.
I don't know if it was identified by somebody who didn't pay the taxes.
Actually, no. The property owner went to pay his taxes, and then he paid them, and then he had questions about the charges.
Okay.
That's the specifics.
So then we dug in and tried to find whatever that clerical issue was, and have been working now again with the treasurer's office in order to make sure that this doesn't happen and we get the correct billing out to those folks who were affected. And again, it's like less than 0.5% of all total taxpayers.
Yeah, I think the number was about 2,600. There's a lot of people living in Milwaukee.
Actually, I believe it was like 600 or so.
I'm just reading from the story that I saw in the from Channel 4 in Milwaukee. On that issue, though, and I want to get to some other stuff. When you see stories like lack of communication, DPW, Christmas tree, that stuff, when you see stories like this where we have incorrect tax bills being sent out, what does that say to you or speak to you as a mayor? What do we have to do better in Milwaukee?
I mean, I think some of the things that we're talking about are human error. Right. I mean, we've got, thousands and thousands of people who work for the city of Milwaukee. And sometimes in a large organization like ours, there will unfortunately sometimes be errors like this because we're only human. And that's what's happened this time around with these two instances. I've expressed my displeasure again with the Department of Public Works about not getting that communication out to folks sooner. And we're working, again, with the treasurer's office and others in order to identify the clerical issues that resulted in these tax bills having the mistakes that were reported on.
Okay, as you look back on this past year, what would you say were some of the major successes for you and maybe some places where we kind of fell down?
Major successes? Well, maybe I should start with the places where we've fallen down first because just to do that. So I think a spot where we have continued to fall down is in the overall issue around not having or people having too easy access to guns. Now that's not just a city thing. That's of course a state issue. We need to continue to try to push the legislature and state government to understand that this issue is wildly important to not just Milwaukee but communities all across the state. Right here. There are too many people who should not have their hands on guns in the first place, who have far too easy access, and we see the results of that. People get shot, people get hurt, and I wish that we were able to change gun law here locally. We're not, So we have to continue to push the legislature in that direction. Crime overall in Milwaukee continues on a more positive trend and continues to go down in terms of our homicides in the city, and that we're very proud of and continue to work each and every single day in order to accomplish. In terms of things that I'm proud of that we were able to get done on a bipartisan basis, we were able to work with the legislature and stave off this fiscal cliff that the city was fast approaching, where we would have had to cut roughly half of the Milwaukee Police Department, would have had to eliminate more than a quarter of the Milwaukee Fire Department, would have had to shutter virtually every single library in the city of Milwaukee, and cut hundreds and hundreds of jobs of city servants who go out into neighborhoods all across Milwaukee to serve. And I think that was important, not just because fiscally it saved the city, but because of the constituencies that are served, right? Not just the people who live in my city who elected me to be mayor, and that constituency, but also the people who come into the city each and every single day from the surrounding communities for work or for play or whatnot. The most iconic businesses in the state of Wisconsin who are here and call the city of Milwaukee home, and a quarter of all the visitors to our state who interface with Wisconsin by coming to Milwaukee. All those folks will be better served because we were able to work in a bipartisan way and get that done.
One of the things I want to ask you about it's a constant theme of talk radio and frankly the local news stations. It's reckless driving. I know we've done things with the hardscaping of street design and all those things. It's still a scourge of this city and other big cities around this country. Mm-hmm. When you look at that issue, you must understand the frustration of drivers, those who are following the rules. Yeah. I mean, when we used to work on Capitol Drive at Old Radio City, there's a couple times if I wouldn't have been paying attention, somebody would have, T-boned me in the middle of an intersection going 70 miles an hour. That problem, I don't know if there's easy answers, but are we doing all we can to at least address it so that we knock the numbers down? Because I think the number was like 70 people were killed in vehicles this year in Milwaukee.
I'm very nervous out there driving.
Yeah.
Very nervous.
Yeah, and so we are taking a number of actions on the issue of reckless driving. You mentioned that statistic that were killed. I mean, in my administration, we launched our Vision Zero efforts. We just this year, and this is one of the accomplishments as well, brought on a Vision Zero director with the goal of getting those pedestrian deaths by car crashes down to zero over the course of 15 years. So we've done that. We've worked with our partners, including the Greater Milwaukee Urban League, to make sure that folks, especially young folks who are getting their driver's license the first time, that they actually can go and go to a class and have proper foundations in driving, right? That's the education, aspect of it. In fact, the governor just signed a bill just recently that, and this was a bipartisan bill as well, to make sure that schools are able to provide driver's ed better than what they have been in years past too. You mentioned some of the hardscapes that we've done to address the issue of reckless driving. We've been working to add more protected bike lanes, which makes it safer for those folks who use bicycles to traverse the city. That also adds another barrier to folks who are seeking to drive recklessly in the city as well. So we're doing a number of things to address the issue.
Mayor Cavalier Johnson joining us in studio for the next half hour. If you have a question, you can shoot on the text line, 855-616-1620. I've got a lot more to ask him. We'll get to all that and more after this. The number is 600, not 2600, so I apologize to the mayor on that one. All right, so I'll just tell you, on the text line, a lot of people saying they appreciate you as mayor. I know you're running for re-election. A few words on that decision and what you expect in that race.
Sure. So I'm excited about continuing to serve as mayor in the next term. When I initially was running for this office, I said that we wanted to set out to make a city that was stronger, a city that was safer, a city that was more prosperous for folks. And I think we've laid a really good foundation to do that. And I want to build on that in the next term. So I want to see more growth, more development in the city. I want to continue to do our efforts to green up Milwaukee and work to protect our climate and work to make sure that, again, we're building out this protected bike lane network throughout Milwaukee. And also want to work to make sure that we're keeping up our promise to make our city safer. And that means we're adding more to our public safety services, police officers, firefighters, and the like. So a lot to do in the next term. I'm excited to get to work on it.
I have to ask you about shared revenue. Obviously, I've had enough Republicans in this studio that have lauded you on your communications work on that, the fact that you were able to work together. Mm-hmm. And we've seen other examples of that, certainly the Brewers bill this year. Yep. When you think about that story, Right now, the numbers look fantastic. For the first time in a long time, City of Milwaukee, County of Milwaukee, they have a very positive budget outlook. Is it sustainable?
I think that we will be in a position where we can take care of some of those things that we were talking about earlier that I mentioned to Carol. Like we would have been in a position where we had to cut police and cut firefighters and several other hundred jobs in the city. So I think we'll be okay there. That's not to say that we're flush with cash, right? So there will continue to be the need to be efficient in city government, and that's the whole reason why simultaneously we've worked with the Greater Milwaukee Committee in the Wisconsin Policy Forum at that to come up with some greater efficiencies for city government. So we're reviewing those things right now and trying to find ways in which the city of Milwaukee and Milwaukee County will be able to work and do some back office stuff together to create some budget savings for both of our governments.
Okay, so as we're moving into this, I'm going to the lighthearted aspect of this whole thing. What do you got going for the holidays? Do you love Christmas? I love Christmas, see, because my birthday's in December, so I take the whole month, basically. What are you doing?
Well, Merry Christmas and Happy Birthday.
Thank you.
We love Christmas. I mean, I've got a 13-year-old son who, he's kind of over it now, but I've got 5-year-old twin daughters. So
fun.
they still believe in the magic of Christmas, and they've got their elf on a shelf that her name is Chloe, and she moves around magically, every night and all that. So Christmas is really big, and my wife loves Christmas. She decorates a house, and it's a whole thing. So we have that going on, and just trying to keep up with all the millions of asks that our 5-year-olds have, because every time a commercial comes on, it's, hey, Daddy, I want that. Santa, I want that.
Think about that question, because one of the last questions I'm going to ask you is if you could speak honestly about what you really want for Christmas to your spouse's friends, family. I'm going to give you the opportunity. So think about that in the next few minutes. I wanted to ask you, you're a guy that looks at things from a positive point of view, which I appreciate. It's a big year next year in Milwaukee. We have the RNC, lots of other big things happening. You and I both know this is a great city. So when you look at 2024, RNC's out there in July, other big things. What's your roadmap, your mission statement for what 2024 is for Milwaukee with you?
With me?
With you.
In terms of my
leadership, your leadership.
Oh, I think that we'll continue to be on a path to put Milwaukee on a map. And I think the RNC will do that. Talk about leadership. I'm a Democrat. There's no surprise to that. The RNC, Republicans in the name. If there wasn't this bipartisan looking leadership, it wouldn't be happening here. I could have come out and after I won the election and said, hey, never ever ever in Milwaukee, but we didn't do that. And that's because there's something bigger at play here. And I want to see the RNC put us in a position where we're able to attract other large scale political, sports, entertainment events to Milwaukee that creates a virtuous economic cycle to create more jobs, more development, more growth for the city. That's good for Milwaukee. And I think that is the sort of leadership that we need in the future in order to realize that.
Is it hard to do, and I'm asking this honestly, for a Democrat in a leadership position to pump up the RNC, which is the other party, which, let's be honest, Democrats and Republicans, like dogs and cats, sometimes don't get along?
Yeah, I think about it in terms of the economic impact as opposed to the political aspect of it. And the fact of the matter is that, it doesn't matter whoever walks across the stage in Milwaukee, and presumptively former President Donald Trump will do that.
That was my next question.
However, I'll be supporting, President Joe Biden, who walks across the stage in Chicago. Outside of the politics, though, there's a great opportunity to tell Milwaukee's story and lift up Milwaukee's profile, not just nationally, but globally. And as the leader of the city, that's what my focus is on.
Well, let's ask the obvious question. If Donald Trump is the nominee, and right now he's got tremendous polling numbers, and again, I always remind people, polls aren't votes.
Correct.
That hasn't happened yet. That'll start next year in 2024. If Trump is the nominee, do you worry that there may be this baggage associated with that could cause some concern, security, and other issues related to the RNC being here in July?
Well, I think that the city of Milwaukee and our public safety entities have had the opportunity, because we had the DNC that we won in 2020. Now, of course, it wasn't fully realized, but we started to have the ability to lay the foundation, the security apparatus for that. So We're very familiar with that. I've tasked not just anybody in my administration, but my chief of staff, who formerly served as chief of staff for the Milwaukee Police Department, to be the point person on the RNC from the city's end here on the ground. So whether it's that or working with our partners in the federal government delegation to get increased funding for our security grant, I think we'll be in a really good spot.
From the text line, your strength is working with both sides. Keep those messages and actions going. Most people, if they will admit it, love Milwaukee. They just want to be safe. I think that's right.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I believe that too. I mean, I know that folks want to be safe. Like I want to be safe. I mean, I've got children that I'm raising in this city, right? And I want them to be safe as well. So everything that we're doing out here is to make a city that is stronger and safer and more prosperous, not just for my family, but for every family that's out there.
Lots of comments coming in and a few good questions. We'll ask the mayor of Milwaukee that question. Mayor Cavalier Johnson joining us in studio right here on WTMJ Now. Lucky enough to have the mayor of the city of Milwaukee, Mayor Cavalier Johnson. I call him Chevy. I usually call him mayor, actually. When I think about
I call you mayor.
Yes. You never really lose the title.
No.
I was ringing the bell for the Salvation Army, ringing the bell campaign on Friday.
Yeah.
Everybody called me mayor, which is cool. You never get tired.
You never
of that,
lose it, really.
It only sucks when you've done something really bad, and then they look at you with scorn. All right. So a couple of some of the texters are asking about accountability for reckless driving. We talked about solutions, hardscaping, all that. What about the accountability of the drivers?
Absolutely. People are making the choice. They're making the decision to get behind the wheel of a vehicle and treat it like a missile driving down the streets, endangering themselves and endangering the greater public safety for everybody. And I have said consistently since I've been mayor, and I will continue to say consistently as long as I am the mayor of this city, is that when anybody causes death, harm, or destruction in Milwaukee, there ought to be a price to pay. They should go to jail. They should be fined, whatever it is. I mean, folks should be held accountable for their actions. I don't know how more plainly I can say it, and I have said it consistently since I've been in this job.
Does the city council of Milwaukee agree with you on that, you think?
I think so. I think so. The improvements that we're making, the hardscapes, the enforcement that the police department does, all of this happens in my city, and my city is composed of their districts, right? And I think that, much like, one of the folks who sent a text message in before said they love Milwaukee, they just want to feel safe. I want to feel safe, and I think council members and their family and their friends want to be safe too. They want their districts to be safe. So yes, I do think that they also believe the same thing.
I got to ask this one. Somebody said this. Who's your favorite Republican in the state of Wisconsin?
Oh, God, okay.
This kind of reminds me of that. This kind of reminds me of the question about the restaurants. Right? You can't answer
What's your
that
favorite restaurant? Oh, sure.
You can't answer that question.
Right.
When you're mayor.
You don't have a favorite Republican. All right.
Okay. If you could wish, like your wish list for the coming year for the people of Milwaukee, what would your main wish be?
My main wish for the people in Milwaukee, I would like to see stability back in our city, back for families. And a lot of that comes with having access to good-paying, family-supporting jobs, right? Because when folks have access to good-paying, family-supporting jobs, they're not moving around so much. The neighborhoods are not porous. The people are not transient. And when the people are not transient and the neighborhoods aren't porous, then people start to know one another. They start to gel. They become cohesive. And when you get that cohesion amongst neighbors and folks start looking out for each other, I mean, that's ultimately how you get to the greater public safety that all of us want to see.
I really can't. I seriously, you cannot stress that enough because I don't live in the city of Milwaukee, but I can tell you this, that I know all of my neighbors. I know their children. I know their dogs. And there's some... There's stability and some safety in that, you know?
Right.
We're greater in numbers, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean, and that's what I want to see for Milwaukee.
Okay.
Lots of questions about Northridge. Where are we at? We have some funding.
We do have funding. We also have a pending court case. As folks may know, the city of Milwaukee years ago instituted a raise order. The owners of the mall, the foreign owners of the mall, based in China, I mean, they've appealed that, and so it's been in courts. I'm eternally grateful to Governor Evers, who allocated $15 million from President Joe Biden's American Rescue Plan Act funding that will allow us to demo the mall and prepare that site for a more prosperous future. That's what I want to see for the Northwest Side and for the city overall.
What do you envision on that site?
Look, I mean, I think there are any number of things that could happen there. I mean, I don't want to speculate about what could be or what.
Well, you
won't
don't also
be.
want to cut off your possibilities.
Well, exactly. So I'm interested to see what that would be. I know that what is happening there has not been working for 20 years. It's been a blight. It's been an eyesore. It's been dangerous. People have died. The firefighters put their lives on the line every time there's a fire, and they go in there and have to put it out. So that mall needs to come down, and it'll be good for the Northwest Side and for the city overall.
All right, a fun one as we go.
Okay.
Because the mayor's got.
Yeah,
point.
he's got
10:30. He's got something. He's got something after this.
He's
All
a
right,
busy dude.
This is a fun one. It's a great segue to our next conversation in the 10 o'clock hour. This is for all your friends, family, spouse, whoever. We all get stuff for Christmas, right, or the holidays. This is your chance to tell them on the air out loud. What do you really want for Christmas?
Well, let's see. I'm a big Batman fan, and I'm a big WWE fan too. So if somebody could send me to like WrestleMania, like that'd be great.
But the mayor doesn't get tickets for that stuff? We know there's rules. I want to thank you for coming in. It's always great to see you. There's a lot of things that we should love about Milwaukee, and there's challenges as well, but I always appreciate your willingness to talk. Let's talk more in 2024.
Happy to do it.
Mayor Cavalier Johnson, City of Milwaukee. You're listening, of course, to WTMJ. Now the news is next.